What's poppin' YouTube? Welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. Zach Lesage here. Today we're going to be covering over the top 10 best decks from the Mega Evolution set. So with Milwaukee and Belo Horizonte regionals happening this weekend, alongside League Cups, League Challenges with Mega Evolution legal for standard play for the first time, the metagame has shifted a decent bit. Now, maybe not every single deck is 100% different, but there's been a lot more flavor added, and I think a lot of movements happened. We haven't had any formal major events in this format, so things are likely going to shift drastically after our double regional header this weekend. Be sure to watch this video for all of the decks, including the deck lists, and you can check out the pinned comment for the deck lists that you can copy and paste right into PTCG Live. Give this video a like, share, and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you think the top 10 best decks are right now. Helps boost the YouTube algorithm. Let's jump into our number 10 pick. Kicking off our list today is going to be Joltik with Goldango, Django for those who want the lingo. This is Joltik box with a Dango twist so that we're able to go Joltik box on the front, accelerates either an Iron Hands or a Pikachu EX, and then follow up after that Pokemon is knocked out, or if Pikachu discards its energy with Topaz Bolt, you're able to use Goldango with superior energy retrieval to attack your Pokemon. Now, I made day 2 with a very similar list in Monterey Regionals, and my wife, Michelle, who plays on the Shuffle Squad, made day 2 in Pittsburgh with a very similar list. This deck doesn't really gain too much from Mega Evolution, but if you notice, we did replace the Chestaflage Gimmighoul with the Ram Gimmighoul. If you play against a Terra Box, or if you play against a Django Mirror, you can hit 10 on that Pikachu with a single prize card board, and it might just end up being that best move to get through Endured Heart ability. This deck is fairly strong in terms of the new metagame. There's a lot of Ceruledge, Goldango Soul Rock, and Pikachu might just carry itself all the way. There's also a lot of stage 2 decks, such as the new Alakazam deck or Gardevoir, so you have options against everything. Consistency is going to be the real deal breaker when it comes to this deck, because there are some moments where it struggles. Sometimes you just don't have the right combinations of pieces, sometimes that lone Latias SEX is prize, probably what kept me out of top 8 at Monterey. But let's be real, it's one of those decks that is incredibly fun to play. It's incredibly competitive in our metagame, and that's what's going to kick off our number 10. Again, all of our lists are available in the pinned comment, so if you click there, it will spoil the rest of the video. I have the lists ordered, and you can just go ahead and click that. It's going to take you to the Limitless Deck Builder, and you can copy and paste the deck that you get there right from the importer to PTCG Live. If you need any of the cards for these decks, check out Kayfabe Cards. They're a huge supporter of the Shuffle Squad, and they're also going to be at Milwaukee Regionals this weekend. So if you're at Milwaukee, be sure to come up and support them because they support the squad. Let's see what we got cooking at number 9. Torrential pumping its way to number 9 is Terra Box. Now, Terra Box has kind of had a glow up moment because it did so well at Monterey, had some decent success at Pittsburgh, and it's here now. As I'm looking through this deck list, I don't really see much from Mega Evolution, but we do see probably the most impactful card of the entire set in the deck, a one of copies of Lily's Determination. So instead of searching for an Iono and praying, we have an opportunity to now search our deck for a Lily's Determination and put those cards back into our deck. Considering it's a combo-based deck and you're looking for a lot of different pieces, maybe in some games you're attacking with Terrapagos EX with its Unified Beatdown, other games you want to have energies in play so you can use Iron Leafs and bring it up active. So there's a lot of different ways that you can play this deck. Lily's Determination keeps your resources involved throughout the entirety of the deck, and if you haven't drawn any prize cards, it's first time you use it, getting the shuffle draw 8 is absolutely fantastic. Using Noctowl to search out whatever pieces you need, like Vitality Band or the Sparkling Crystal, maybe with a Crispin, that really gives you a lot of opportunities to kind of have the right tools whenever you need them. And like the Django deck that we just saw, we have Pikachu EX here as well. So Pikachu EX being able to slap on a Vitality Band and maybe even knock out a Gardevoir EX. So this deck is well teched towards our new Mega Evolution metagame, and it's still around kicking. So before these cards rotate in the next few months, I think it's worthwhile to give this deck a try. One of our biggest movers this week is going to be Crustle. Now, Crustle is probably a deck that you either want to see or you don't want to see. If you're playing Goldango, Joltik, Saraledge, Grimmsnarl, Zorak, you're like, uh-oh, Crustle is tough to deal with. If you're playing Gardevoir, you're like, delicious crab rock for breakfast. Well, that's kind of how it works across the board, but you can see we have some differences when it comes to this deck. We get Psyduck, not directly from Mega Evolution, but from the promos that are associated to this set, and the new MEP set signature of promos from Mega Evolution Standard can block Curse Blast. So we have a little bit of a better Dragapult Dusknoir matchup. We gain Shuckle, so we can attach a Grass Energy and heal off of our Pokemon. So instead of having access to Pokevital A, one of the most interesting, I'll be nice to it today, or bad, A-Specs, now we have access to Secret Box. And of course, we've also gained the Lilies of Termination, this time in a 4-of. And that's going to be standard for a lot of decks. If they can play 4 of Lilies, it probably should play 4 of Lilies. Now, we have the opportunity to use Sudowoodo here, Ethan's Sudowoodo, and bring up Pokemon and use its impound attack so they can't retreat. Now, some Pokemon can attack back, but the strategy now for a lot of these is to put Defiance Vest on Sudowoodo so it takes 40 damage less, and you can use Shuckle so that you heal damage off. So in the case where you bring up your opponent's Monkey Dory, you could bring up a Monkey Dory, you can put the Defiance Band, Sudowoodo, so then they attack you, they're like, okay, cool, 20, you're confused, you play Therapeutic Energy down, you're no longer confused, you go ahead, impound, they hit you, so you're starting to take the damage, then you go to Shuckle, and then you start healing things off. You've created an infinite loop. Now they build up all the cards in their hand. Instead of using Lilies or Iono to shuffle them back, you have access to Xerosic. Now Xerosic allowing your opponent to discard until they have 3 cards left in their hand, really kind of closing this loop. Is this deck the most consistent deck of all time? No, but I do think Crustle is incredibly well positioned for the early Mega Evolution metagame, or until we see how it shapes up. So I might even be playing Crustle this week, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of hot. But let's see what we got going on with the rest of this list. At number 7, we see Enzork EX. Now, Enzork EX is what won Pittsburgh. It gave Liam that champion title, beating a Bond who won Monterey. So being able to beat Gardevoir seems really good. We go from Crustle, a deck that struggles with Gardevoir, to Enzork, a deck that does beat Gardevoir. And I'm telling you, Gardevoir seems pretty great after Mega Evolution. So not only did Gardevoir get the new routes, the new Curlia, the new stadium, Lily's Determination, it seems like a lot of top players still really like that deck and it's dominating online. Why not try to counter them with the deck that won Pittsburgh that was trying to beat Gardevoir in the first place? No big changes here. We see Yveltal replacing the Maractus in the deck, so we're gonna color swap it from grass type to dark type. Yveltal has free retreat, and since we're not playing Ethan Sudowoodo, the 20 damage from Clutch doesn't really end up mattering too much. And that's pretty much it. No Lily's Determination, because we probably want to be using Cyrano. We're able to use trade, pitch, draw cards, and we take Liam Halliburton's list from Pittsburgh, and basically it's the exact same 60. We still have Toedscruel to stop our opponent's Goldango. We have access to Yveltal to lock up some of our Pokemon, like the Crustle deck and its Ethan Sudowoodo. And we're gonna call it a day there. I think we don't really need to mess with what is otherwise close to a perfect list. Now, there have been some variants of this deck that I see that replace Secret Box with Hero's Cape. Now, the Hero's Cape giving yourself an opportunity to maybe dodge some attacks from Goldango or dodge some attacks from Saraledge, but that's going to be to be determined. I think it's one of those things where you don't necessarily want to tech against the entire metagame, but also Hero's Cape might be a good catch-all solution for the early Mega Evolution metagame. Either way, being able to use Night Joker, copying En's Reshiram is much stronger than anticipated. One of the hottest debates right now in Pokemon TCG is Dragapult Dusknoir still an amazing deck? And I'm leaning towards yes. That's why we got it at number 6. So when I look at its change, not really. I swapped Professor's Research for Lily's Determination. We didn't want to be discarding stuff anyways, okay? So Lily's Determination, getting an extra card, shuffling your resources back in. It did hurt a lot of times when you were pitching all those Night Stretchers in the discard pile and you're like, what's going on, deck? In terms of that, nothing else has really changed. I know that some builds have been going with towards rare candy version. Personally, I've been going with the straight up evolution version. We'll have to see which one prevails as the stronger choice at Milwaukee or Belo Horizonte, but it is one of those things where I have to bring up the Psyduck that we saw in the Crustle deck. Using its damp ability is going to stop some decks in its track, and it might just stop the Dusknoir. Now, we can see in some ways where they can't use Dusknoir, you bring up Dusknoir, and now they can't pop it out of the active spot. You likely can't retreat it out of the active spot, and especially something like Ethan Sudowoodo cannot allow it to retreat out of the active spot. Maybe it can attack, and that's a decent enough strategy. Well, in other cases where they're not using any kind of retreat locking strategy, you could just attack into the Psyduck with 6 damage counters on Dragapult. So Phantom Dive, 6 to the Psyduck. Then you could go Hawlucha, knock it out, then pop your Dusknoirs. So there are ways around it, and they are putting another potential target in play. The same way that Shaman doesn't necessarily stop Gardevoir's Screamtail 100%, or Terrabox's Wellspring Ogerpon. So something to really consider. I think that this weekend we might see a little bit of countering to this deck. We might see more of those Psyducks than necessarily expected, but I think those who have a strong will to play Dragapult EX could definitely see some success. We'll have to find out. At the halfway point of our list this week, we have Charizard EX with Pidgeot and Dusknoir. So as much as the Psyducks out there, we're seeing a handful of decks with Dusknoir. Now, there are both versions of Charizard with Dusknoir and without Dusknoir. And I believe this is Alex Hamilton's list from a Limitless tournament. So again, this is what I mean by the metagame shaking up. We see Jet Energy Charizard, and the Jet Energy is great because we have access to Tatsugiri, and we have Klefki here. Klefki being able to potentially shut off that damp, then using Dusknoir. I think that's how that works, at least. So being able to shut off some of the abilities that we have on some basic Pokemon, searching out whatever you want. And I've seen some debates with the Pidgeotos or whatever. I'm still going with the free retreat Pidgeotto. We'll have to see how it goes. But overall, Charizard's been kind of climbing over the past few months, and it's kind of back in the metagame. And I think with Lily's determination, the deck might just be a little bit more consistent now than ever. And with the consistency of Lily's meeting the consistency of Pidgeot EX, you have a lot of opportunities to kind of get all the cards you want. And Infernal Rain into Burning Darkness is one of the strongest kind of ability attack follow-ups we have, really giving yourself a lot of strength. Like Charizard, it's not necessarily the most exciting deck right now because we've had Charizard for, I mean, I think this is like the third season in a row that you could be playing Charizard EX at one of these early regionals. But I think that Charizard EX is also just a strong deck in general, and it's just one of those like tried true decks. It might have been in the metagame for forever, but it doesn't make it a bad choice. So if you're looking for a tried and true deck to play at one of these early Mega Evolution regionals, totally think that Charizard EX might just end up being one of the best plays. At number 4, we have another Pidgeot EX deck, the All Out Blitzel Special Pidgeot EX Control. Now, Pidgeot EX Control is a deck that we haven't seen for a while, but it does gain a couple new tricks from this set. So we gain access to Lily's Determination. Been there, done that. Lots of different decks have it. I don't need to re-explain it. But we also get the Psyduck here. So when Dragapult Dusknoir was kind of ripping through this deck and it had some tough times, we now have that answer. We have Lily's Determination to make things a little bit more consistent. And we've kind of changed things up. We have the Team Rocket's Petrol to be able to search things out. We have the Team Rocket's Transceiver, which automatically searches for it. So we have the 6 of copies. And of course, we have some strong choices like Ethan Sudowoodo, Elgium, and Frillish to stop our opponent, along with the Dene being able to grab some cards back. It seems like we have a decent enough kind of setup for these decks. And using Grand Tree, I got to break out my stamped Grand Tree when I was building this deck in person. So I think that it's kind of has the whole package. And as we get towards the end of our format, like I know we just got Mega Evolution and we're going to get Phantasmal And I think one more mini set. Those are probably the last sets before we are going to have rotation that's going to define the game in like March or April when they typically do it. Maybe it's February. So February or March, April is where they're really going to change things up. I think we're looking at it and it's like these decks get the one of supporters from all the different decks. So while it might not necessarily be the easiest deck to play or necessarily the most fun deck for your opponent to play against, we do have a really cool deck here that seems quite strong into the field. I think it's if you know how to play it, this is probably one of the absolute best choice. Number 4 might be too low for this one. Another deck that is climbed from up throughout the ashes is Saraledge EX. Now, Saraledge EX with that Abyssal Flames attack, 30 plus 20 for each energy card in your discard pile. Well, with the new Lunatone Soul Rock combo, which I have built in a handful of decks. We see it in the Goldango Soul Rock version. There's a few other decks that are going to be playing the Soul Rock Lunatone. But overall, being able to have a Soul Rock in play as a easy single prizer, single energy attacker. It does 70 damage as long as you have Lunatone in play. Lunatone says as long as you have Soul Rock in play, you get to pitch a fighting energy from your hand and draw 3 cards. Well, if you think about pitching energies and drawing cards, and then we have Squawkabilly, Carmine, we have access to research, we can really go through there. So it gives us some opportunities to play Fighting Gong, gives us some opportunities to kind of have all these energies in our deck, and of course, using legacy energy to even prevent our opponent from drawing the full amount of prize cards. Saraledge might just be one of the best aggressive decks we have in format. I think a lot of players who might have been interested in Raging Bolt, fire decks, just big damage decks, might really be interested in Saraledge. It might have some minor consistency issues because, again, you sometimes have to discard a lot of resources, but consistency, it doesn't matter. You have Briar, just draw extra prize cards at the end of the game. This deck is kind of like the complete package, and when it works buttery smooth. It's crazy that Saraledge has been so low on our meta list before, and it's really probably the best case of just popping back up when it comes down to it. And that's what I mean, Mega Evolution has changed things up a lot. It doesn't necessarily just mean like, hey, let's add Lilies to all the decks. We're actually seeing more of a trickle effect throughout the entirety of the metagame. And number 2, we have Marnie's Grimmsnarl EX, another one of these decks that has absolutely climbed up throughout recent times, and it's the Lily's Determination factor. Lily's Determination, absolutely a fantastic card, and we changed Maractus to Eviltal. We got free retreat. Some minor buffs to a deck can certainly be a big deal breaker, and I think that's really where it's just like we get Lily's Determination, the deck just smashes through it, where it's like, cool, now we can get out that rare candy combination a little bit more often. Maybe we can get off that Technical Machine Evolution a little bit more often. So the 4 Arven, 4 Lilies is a very good consistency package when it comes down to it. On top of that, it beats Gardevoir EX pretty well, and it holds its own against a lot of different decks because of the Frostlass, taking those damage counters with its Freezing Shroud ability. And of course, you have Shaman in case you run into a Terra Box matchup. Like, I think that Marnie's Grimmsnarl is appropriately teched for the format and has a lot of different win cons, but a lot of the times you're like, cool, I'm like Charizard Jr. and Shadow Bullet's the same as using Charizard's attack, right? You just punk up, self-accelerate energies, you're a dark type Pokemon. I'm sure you can see a lot of the resemblance there. And then the deck just seems to work from that point using counter catchers and whatever else you have. So being able to kind of search through exactly what you want in the deck really allows this deck to climb. But this deck's not our number 1 deck of the week. It's an absolute fantastic pick, like most other decks on this list. I think we're in one of the widest formats we've seen in a long time. But if you haven't already put your best guesses, or if you just want to leave a YouTube comment to help support myself and the Shuffle Squad, let's see what we've got going on at our number 1 pick. But we have Gardevoir EX. Now, Gardevoir EX has changed a little bit. We went from a 2-2-3 lineup to a 2-1-2 lineup with the new Curlia and Relt. We got kind of what's called the Henry Chow special. Probably heard of him, one of the strongest Gardevoir players, if not any player of all time, that's kind of cooked up this list, that's kind of making some waves at some online events, using Latias EX to get out that turn 1 Frillish a little bit more often. You can go right into Oceanic Gloom and stop your opponent from using their item cards. Then you can kind of ramp up into a Jellicent EX. That sounds great. You can see another deck that plays the 4 of Lily's Determination. So one of the biggest themes that you can probably see on this list, Lily's Determination, very good cards. Pick them up. You probably need a whole bunch. I'm pretty sure I ordered 48 copies of Lily's Determination so I can have all of my 20 deck built up. You need 48 to build 20 decks, apparently. So Lily's Determination, pick them up while they are low. I don't imagine them getting any cheaper. Maybe we'll have to find out. But we also have that Mystery Garden stadium. So Mystery Garden, you had to pitch an energy from your hand and draw up until your hand has as many psychic Pokemon you have in play. So really giving yourself some opportunities there to have some extra draw. And you can see how this deck kind of plays all together with the extra rare candies. You don't need to worry too much about your routes in play. You can just go routes, rare candy, Gardevoir, and then you're ready to kind of roll with everything else going on. Now, Gardevoir EX being number 1 means there are a few absent decks from our top 10. Raging Bull didn't make it this week. Goldango, Solrock didn't make it this week. So it's kind of an interesting metagame. And you'd say online, Zach, Goldango is one of the top played decks. I think it doesn't necessarily hold its own in the metagame right now. That's not to say if you're playing Goldango that I think it's bad. I think it's just interesting right now in our metagame. And I'm a player that's played Goldango since July. I just think that there's a lot of decks that are trying to counter it right now. Cerulege going back into the metagame really hurts things. Raging Bull just has kind of lost its way a little bit, but again, these are all strong decks. I think you could go all the way down within the decks in the top 20. There's Cynthia's Garchomp, there's Mega Lucario, Mega Venusaur. All these decks seem viable, at least on a local scale, but we'll have to see. I'm sure we'll see a lot of these decks in the day 2 of Milwaukee Regionals. So we're in for a wild ride. I don't think we're necessarily going to see the Gardevoir versus Gardevoir all the time at the streamed games, but yeah, I think that's our list this week. I do want to give a huge shout out to Gabe Smart TCG, and Sable Creech, the Diff TCG, for helping me kind of craft this list. You always got to message your friends and be like, yo, what's up with these decks? I'm really good at building the decks. Sometimes it's hard to place them. And shout out to everyone else who may have given me some tips, tricks, maybe played you on the ladder or not. But let me close things out. I could yap all day. I appreciate y'all for looking at the top 10. Let's close things out. That's what we got going on for our video today. I appreciate everyone holding out for this video. I know I was trying to get it out a little bit earlier, but it's still Thursday. So if you're traveling to Milwaukee, or if you're getting ready for your cups and challenges this weekend, 100% this video should be able to help you out. We have some banger deck lists, and I hope that you all have fun with Mega Evolution. I don't know if it's necessarily my favorite format. It's a little wide open, but I think we're gonna have to see how this regionals weekend really comes together so we can kind of start cutting some decks off. Are decks like Alakazam, Dunsparce, or even Goldango, Solrock going to see a lot of success this weekend? Very well could happen. I think we'll see some of them in day 2, and the top 10 decks is only so long. I'm going to be at Milwaukee this weekend. I get in there Thursday night, so currently I'm driving to Milwaukee as we're posting this video, and I'm excited to see everyone. So if you see me, I'll probably be hanging around the Kayfabe Cards booth, or I might be at the venue playing some games with my friends. Be sure to come up and say hi. I usually wear, I'm low-key on the Fridays, but I might be wearing a shirt like this. Also, shout out to Kayfabe Cards for helping me acquire this. They had some awesome Pokemon merch at their booth. So if you see them at Milwaukee or at any other tournament, be sure to come over there and say hi. They are a huge supporter of the Shuffle Squad. Safe travels to everyone. If you're playing locally, get those finishes. Have fun, and we'll catch up with all y'all soon. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed the content that we have today, and maybe you'll click on one of these other videos, enjoy those videos too. If you haven't already, give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments what video you want to watch next. Until next time, we'll catch up with all y'all later. Have yourself a great day.